Types of dyes used in textile industry. Dyeing is the application of dyes or pigments on textile materials such as fibers, yarns, and fabrics with the goal of achieving color with desired color fastness. Dyeing is normally done in a special solution containing dyes and particular chemical material. Dye molecules are fixed to the fiber by absorption, diffusion, or bonding with temperature and time being key controlling factors. Different classes of dyes are used for different types of fiber and at different stages of the textile production process, from loose fibers through yarn and cloth to complete garments. Reactive dye. Reactive dye is a common dye in the garments and textile industry. Normally, it is a very highly colored organic substance. Reactive dye uses a chromophore that contains a substituent that is quite capable of a direct reaction with a fiber substrate. The diester forms a chemical link with the fiber. It has very good fastness properties. Normally, reactive dyes apply in cotton, linen, viscose, wool, and silk. Dispersed dye. Dispersed dye is originally developed for the dyeing for cellulose acetate and water insoluble. Normally, this dyeing temperature is high and more pressure for the dye bath. It is good for fastness properties. Normally, it can be used for dyeing nylon, cellulose acetate, polyester, and acrylic fiber. Direct dye. Generally, this dye mixed in all-purpose dyes with acid dyes. This dye on cotton fabric cannot bright, that's the reason it can be mixed with others. The wash fastness of this dye is not very good, but light fastness is very good. This fastness property can be improved after treatment. The direct dye is commonly used on cotton fiber or cotton fabric in garments and textile industry. Basic dye. The most common synthetic dye is a basic dye. In the initial stage, that nature is to act as bases and is actually aniline dyes. Initially, their color base prevents them from being water soluble. They can be made so with the base being converted into a salt. At the chemical level, basic dyes are typically cationic or positively charged. It reacts with acidic groups or mordants in the fiber. It has very good fastness properties of acrylic fibers and good brightness. The basic dye is commonly used on jute and acrylic. Acid dye. Normally, the acid dye is used for protein fibers and it depends on fabric type. It looks like a strong caustic soda, but in reality, these dyes are non-caustic acids and sometimes also non-toxics. In fact, in some cases, mild acids like vinegar are used in the dyeing process. Its fastness properties focus on fabric nature. Acid dye applies to wool, silk, and nylon. Sulfur dye. Sulfur dye is mainly used for cellulose fibers. It can be used for dyeing staple fibers and yarns. It is luster grains and make a black shade with having a slight reddish or greenish impact. It's have good light fastness properties. It is used for cotton, viscose, and rayon. Vat dye. Vat dye is very popular in the textile and garments industry. Normally, vat dye based on the original indigo dye of natural. It is a very ancient class of dye. Nowadays, indigo dyes are manufactured synthetically. There are different types of fibers can be washed by vat dye and it is used in cotton and wool. Azoic dye. The azoic dye is also called naphthol dye. This azo consists of a group called the azo group. These groups made by nitrogen and atoms. It is connected atomic ring components. This azo dye is found mainly three colors like as red, brown, and yellow. Azoic dye mainly applies to cotton and viscose.